Giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. News and prophecy, linking the things happening worldwide, as well as here in Babylon the Great, linking these things to the Holy Scriptures, giving you the understanding of all of the issues you see happening, all right, via biblical prophecy, because everything that's happening in the world can be verified and understood by what's written in the volume of the book. And as the scriptures say, the things that are written in the volume of the book are faithful and true. All right. And we bring you this information so that you are aware of the times that you're in. All right. And as the scriptures say, through the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. But also know and understand that victory over these things is written and prophesied as well. You read Revelation, the 15th chapter. All right. It talks about victory over the beast, his image and his mark. All right. So victory is already foretold as well. But before we get to the point, all right, where we're on the chariot singing the song of Moses, face to face with our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, in new bodies, which is the fulfillment of the new covenant that will only be partaken of, all right, or in by the elect of Yasha'Allah, the elective nation of Israel, the only ones that are going to be beamed up into the chariots and changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. The elect, the government will be crowned. Ultimately, eventually, New Jerusalem will come down and set up order on earth. All right. The goal is to bring the spiritual realm, all right, as the scriptures say, on earth as it is in heaven. All right. But before we get that, all right, the Lord has allowed us to witness absolute hell on earth under the rule of the biblical Edomites. All right. And we're just about at the end of his world, which is going to be marked by deception, destruction, death, disease, warfare, psychological warfare, all right, rape, robbery, murder, all right, demons jumping on people. We saw 2025 was absolute hell, okay, and 2026 is going to be worse. So it's very important that you prepare your minds and understand what's going on, all right, that you are not taken, all right, by these things, okay, as the scriptures say in the book of 1 Peter 5 and 8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Okay, and it's not like Satan is just walking around, with a Satan jersey on. And I'm Satan. No, he's working and operating through, of course, the leaders of this world to set up their NWO. All right, but there's people who are under the influence of Satan, okay, who are doing things to take your focus off of the prize, okay, changing the doctrine even, all right, because it's not just the biblical Edomites that are under the vibration of Satan. You have Israelites under the vibration of Satan, changing the doctrine at the very end, trying to play the victim, putting up false, videos, misleading narratives, to try to make themselves look as the victim, and we as the, these aggressors who want to, kill them. All kind of madness is going on here in Israel, man. This is why we have to be sober. Now, when you look up this word sober, okay, because this system associated with the MOTB is being set up every day. By the second, it is being set up, man. And of course, we know that it's going to be marked by false flag, black swan events. And if you're not, rooted, you're going to be taken by these things and you're going to fold. You're going to bow the knee. Many of you Israelites are going to be ready to bow the knee to the image of Baal because you're here to just play games, hear or say something new, mock, scoff. Okay, but we're actually here to speak the kingdom of heaven into existence, man. So the word for sober
Strong's G 3525. NAFO. NAFO.
All right. To be sober. All right. To be calm and collected in spirit, as the scriptures say. Okay. In the book of, I believe, Jeremiah 51, you know, the come out of her, you know, the meaning in a spiritual sense, unless your heart faint, because if your spirit is tied to this place, as the scriptures say, we have no continuing city here. The Lord has allowed this place to get more and more wicked, all right, as a means for the elect to have the means to easily separate, all right, from this world. I mean, we're in the world, we use the world for particular things, but we don't abuse it. But when it's all said and done, you should be looking and praying to get out of this world, man. This is madness. Nothing feels the same. People are totally demonic. The food is fake. The people are fake. The entertainment is fake, right? The music is trash. Okay? If you're not listening to something older, or if I'm not listening to something older or something I myself made, I'm just driving in complete silence. Okay? This is madness, man. This is not an environment to thrive in. So it says to be temperate. Can't be doing too much, man. I've been warning brothers about, you know, the horny demon, man. You know, which any woman you see that's looking in your eyes, you got to have it. We ain't living in them times, man. Yeah, Isaiah 4:1 is written, but you have to be sober-minded in who you allow into your life, who you lay with, because this is a crazy time, man. You got to be temperate and moderate with your diet. Okay, you can't be doing too much out here, man. It was never a good idea to do too much, but especially in these times, now that we have the wisdom associated with Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, so we have to be temperate. The word temperate, okay? Look up temperate. Relating or denoting, all right, it says mild, clement, pleasant, agreeable, self-restrained, self-controlled, discipline. Okay? We weren't called to receive this wisdom to get to the very end and just live these wild and crazy lives, man. So the people are diseased, plagued with demons. And you can find yourself in a jacked up situation just based upon lust. So again, it said be sober, right? Dispassionate. Wow, let's check this word out. Before we get into some news, just tapping into some things that have been on my spirit, because you look out into Israel, and it's just a mess, man. Okay, Israel, you people are annoying, and now we see why the flood had to come. We see why the flood had to come. Not influenced by strong emotion, over emotional, man. You got guys that are just overly emotional, wicked. You got dudes changing the doctrine. Every time you look up, there's a new doctrine change or some new this or some new that. And then when they get called out, they the victims. Putting up videos where brothers getting them out, getting on them. But the video that they're putting up is from years ago. Stuff that they've been holding on to put out there as a means to divert people's attention away from the reality of what they're doing and their wickedness, man. And these niggas are going to act like this, man. This is why we got to stay on the path. We can't be over emotional. Okay? And so able to be rational and impartial, unemotional, non-emotional. See that? Beautiful. Circumspect. Circa, around, spect, to look. You got to be looking around, man. Can't be walking around, all right, like a dummy in these times, man. Because the spiritual demon Satan is walking around seeking whom he can devour, man. Okay, you got to check particular emotions and things that come to your mind before they fester and grow. Because we're in a time As it says in the book of Second Esdras, the 8th chapter and the 50th verse, it says, "For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter times shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. But understand thou for thyself, and seek out the glory for as much as be like unto thee." All right? Because Jake, they just ain't got it. Okay? Jake is we get to the very end of Esau's world, and Jake all of a sudden wants to save him. So, just continue to focus on gathering the elect, okay? Prophesying, which is the main thing, because we're at the end of this man's world. Let's get one more here in the book of Luke 21 and 34. It says, "And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts or your minds be overcharged with surfeiting." All right, what's surfeiting? Okay, the Lord made this world to become worse and worse so that it will be easier for the elect to separate. Okay? And it's bitter to us, but sweetness is coming, man. An excessive amount of something, just doing too much, whether it be drinking, eating, being married, okay, being a family man, whatever it may be. There's nothing wrong with dealing with your family, all right? But we have to understand the times that we're in, what we've been called to do. Oversupply, superabundance, excess. Okay, we're living at a time where the majority of the foods that are on that you have access to are fake, and they look real. Some of them even taste real, but you're starting to taste and something's wrong. We're living in Satan's world, man. Okay, we're living in Satan's society, man. Okay, real foods are disappearing. These Satanists have taken over every aspect of life, man. We're gonna need a miracle. We need to start preparing our minds, all right, to receive and perform miracles, man. So we're gonna have to transform the way we think. We gotta tap heavier into the spirit, man, because we're gonna need a miracle, and brothers are gonna be doing miracles, man. You have to start preparing your mind to speak that into existence, man, because this man gotta go. Luke 21 and 34. "And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and the cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth." Okay? Because again, we're at the end of Esau's world. "Watch ye therefore and pray always that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass and stand before the Son of Man." See, this is the mindset that we should be in. And these are the words of Yahweh Shai. A snare is coming up on the earth, man. Okay? The word for snare,
Strong's G 3803. Pagis. Pagis.
snare, trap, noose. Okay? Of snare in which birds are entangled and caught. Okay, and there's a precept that I'm thinking of in the book of Psalms. Bird, snare, something that is triggering my spirit to look up. Boom, there you go. Psalms 124 and 7, because this man is setting up a snare in the planet Earth, man. Whew. Psalms 124 and 6. "Blessed be Yahweh, who have not given us as a prey to their teeth. Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers." The snare is broken and we are escaped. And that's what we're going to get into, some of the snares that they're setting, all right, on earth as a means to justify, all right, just carting people off and destroying them, man. And implementing AI technology to govern, all right, and surveil everyday affairs and your everyday life. They're setting up hell on earth while everybody's just playing games. Now we know during so-called Thanksgiving, right? There was a so-called shooting, all right, of National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. You have to understand they are using these things that are happening. These things may just pop up in the news and you may be like, oh, it's another shooting, oh, just, another day in Babylon. But what they're doing with these scenarios, all right, is setting up, the means to set up the NWO, the digital Tower of Babel, stuff we always talk about. All right, but we're going to keep talking about it, right? Because what the hell is going on with you Israelites, man? We're at the very end of Esau's world. 2nd Esdras 6 and 9. Esau represents the end of this age, and Jacob represents the beginning of the new age. Okay? So if Jacob's hand is the beginning and Esau's heel is the end, do not try to find a space in between. Jacob's trying to figure out a way to who knows what Jake is doing, man. Okay? But the Heavenly Father is getting ready to make a move. But before the Lord makes his move, the devil is going to make his move. So we're going to get into a few things that are happening, things to watch out for, and may the elect be edified. We're going to start here, all right, with a part of the third witness team, all right, because you have the two witnesses, which is the elect of Judah and Ephraim standing up, prophesying through the Holy Spirit in these latter days. And then you have the third witness, which are these truthers and people who are insiders and certain people who do videos exposing the evils, all right, as we said, their own tongue, as the scriptures say, their own tongue is going to fall on themselves. We'll start here, get some of this video, and may you enjoy the ride.
Because they wanted people in the law enforcement agencies here in New York to be aware of who this person was, to see if there's any ties, anybody they need to check. With tomorrow being the 99th Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, right now there is not believed to be any sort of specific or credible threat to that, according to an NYPD briefing.
Tom, can I ask you something? And I don't want us to get over our skis here on this, but you point out that the last known location of the suspect was in Washington State, obviously across the country from Washington, D.C. Is there any reason to believe, on the basis of the sources you're talking to, that this individual traveled across the country for the purpose of carrying out this attack? Had they already been, spending time or living in D.C. for a little bit? Do we not know?
That's probably the number one question that they're trying to figure out at this time. Check back on travel schedules, figure out how this person got there. They do have information as far as their driver's license and vehicle. They'll check that. There's obviously license plate readers. We've seen that come into such use by law enforcement over the past several years. And just this year, you look at New Year's Day, that information was so helpful in trying to determine the location and how the individual that attacked New Orleans on New Year's Day. And also, remember the incident at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. That
From the beginning of this year till now, all right, these events have been happening, and it's been happening. It always happens. The Black Swan events. Okay, but now we're starting to see, all right, more of their solutions as Trump, is talking about this whole Genesis AI, movement awakening. We'll get into that. But these devils are getting ready to make a move, man. Okay? But the propaganda machine, all right, has to push out these things because people, the American people are drunk. A lot of people are waking up, but more than anything, Israelites are drunk. Nobody's worried about prophecy. Nobody's worried about the kingdom coming. People, downplaying. We don't need to know what the mark of the beast is. People are downplaying prophecy when the scriptures tell you the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy. So, Lakia, let me keep going, man. Maybe if we go live later, I'll just get on Jake, man, because Jake is, oh my God. Oh man. Brothers, we gotta keep the main thing, man. But, through it all, edification always comes out, Sometimes we don't understand, but when it's all said and done, the Lord is always in control,
that individual who had an incendiary device that arrived at the hotel there. They were able to trace that person's travels through the license plate reader and get an identification. So all of that, Hallie, will go into the investigation. But you've asked the question that law enforcement is desperately trying to figure out at this hour.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. You know, I shouldn't have to do videos talking about supposed events that occur that are clearly psyops. But we have to cover these types of things because there's people that believe that the news and the stories on the news are actually real. They don't realize that by creating events like this, it plays into all the current narratives that are out there. Narratives about immigration and illegals, giving the government the ability to track more people digitally using technology like Palantir.
And again, when they say, immigrants and illegals, what comes to mind is the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. Jake, Israelites have been marked as the biggest issue with America's system crumbling. And when it's all said and done, just like at the time of Nero, all right, it's going to be legal to off Jake on sight, especially those of us who are preaching this word. Okay? To round you up without due process and to throw your ass, all right, somewhere to be tortured and never to be heard of again, so that they can make a safer world for Esau, who basically has become small among the heathen. They're not having enough children. They're being outbred by the brown nations. The whole religion of Islam is becoming more dominant here in a Christian world. So they're scared about that. Right? So they're getting ready to use this AI technology and all of these various different blessings they have on the left-hand side. All right? By playing the victim, just like Esau did. Is not his name rightly Jacob? Just like Cain did. All right? Am I brother's keeper? The serpent. He blamed the woman. Right? Esau is now blaming Jake. All right, illegal immigrants, which we're going to show you and what I did a video on it, the concept of immigration and why people are constantly trying to come over here to the United States has everything to do with colonization and what you've done to these various different countries. You think people, wouldn't just be chilling in where they from? People from South America in these different countries, you don't think they would just rather chill where they are? Right? Haiti. You don't think, with all of the resources in place in these places, why are people always on the move to try to come over here? Right? Because their economies have been destroyed. And see, these are the things that, the likes of Anton Daniels, the so-called black conservative don't want to deal with. They'll do videos, yeah, we got to get these migrants out, but they don't want to deal with Esau's hand in how all of this shit started in the first place, man. Why the world is so much in disarray. The so-called white man in the eyes of the black conservative, he's free for, he's just innocent. Yeah, we can look at the end result and point out things, but see, this is what the scriptures do. Let's get the book of 2nd Esdras real quick. The 6th chapter. In the 18th verse, it said, the time is near, it's in the GNT, when I will come to judge the people living on the earth, and I will punish those who have hurt others with their injustice. Jerusalem humiliation will come to an end. And see, via the news and the media, Jerusalem, the true Israelites are being humiliated and pointed out as the biggest problem of the earth. Who's draining the resources? Okay, when welfare is just a small pinch of the budget of where all of the money is going, man, and what's draining. Not to mention all of the aid that go to foreign governments to prop up the small hats and to do wickedness throughout the four corners of the earth. Right? So the humiliation of Israel is going to come to an end, man. Okay? And even our enemies, man, those of these different camps, they're helping to try to humiliate this movement as well, man. This great awakening, not a movement, this great awakening. They're helping the enemy. calling us BHI, right? So the Lord said he's going to punish those who have hurt others with their injustice. Jerusalem humiliation will come to an end. All right. And it's going to get worse in 2026. Look for, your family members to start seeing clips, perfectly, clipped out clips of you saying things, right? Your jobs, seeing things. Through much tribulation, we're going to get to the kingdom, man. The Lord meant that. You got to start preparing your mind for that, man. And this age, which is about to pass away, will have the final seal put on it. Then will I give the following signs, all right? So the Lord is getting ready to judge those who have done all kind of injustice, man. Okay? Because as soon as you try to start pointing the finger at the true problem, this world and our own people are programmed to start pointing out, well, look at Chicago. Well, the immigrants are the problem. The poor, the welfare queens, yada, 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 which, those are problems. You're not denying that some of those things are problems, which welfare has been a part of societies, from the beginning. But anyway, let's get back to the point, man. As you can see, I got a lot on my mind, right? Something on my mind. Let's get back to the point. Let's get this news and prophecy on and popping, man. 50 minutes in, right?
So that they could see inside your phone and see what you're doing.
Let's rewind that a little bit, because that's what they're using all of these scenarios to do, justify AI surveillance.
The news and the stories on the news are actually real. They don't realize that by creating events like this, it plays into all the current narratives that are out there. Narratives about immigration and illegals, giving the government the ability to track more people digitally using technology like Palantir so that they could see inside your phone and see what you're doing and where you're from, and maybe even force people to have digital IDs, because guess what? That's one of the government's most important agendas. And then you could tie into the fact that the government wants to bring in more National Guard. And you look at these stories and you just say, you shouldn't even have to discuss with people how fake these things are. But you do, because people believe that these events really occur. Then they say, well, how could they fake something like that? Well, it'd be pretty easy, right? Because I'll show you some of the people interviewed on the streets who just supposedly heard bang, bang, as if they have to be gunshots. The government couldn't use the National Guard to fire fake rounds, to fire blanks to simulate the sound of a gunshot and then roll around on the ground and pretend they were shot, close down the roads, and then roll these guys out on stretchers and give you an instant narrative about an illegal from Afghanistan who supposedly drove, as you heard in that video, from all the way in Washington to the East Coast so that he could shoot two people that he doesn't know just because they're in the National Guard, right? Where's the motive? No motive whatsoever. He just wanted to go and shoot the National Guard people. Then they want to tell you on the news how he was in Washington originally, how they found that out immediately, all these locations that he's been, because they're getting you prepared for the flock technology they're already using to get you to accept it and say, oh, that's great that we were able to track his car and track his movements illegally, right? So that we can know where he was and all these times if he had something else planned, or his friends have anything planned. Can we track them as well? Can we track any other Afghan elites? How about we track all of them? How about we just track everybody? And we tell you that it's perfectly normal and perfectly legal for us to do these things because we could prevent crimes. Next thing you know.
And that's how they're going to do it, it's peace and safety. All right, they're going to use the concept of peace and safety as a means to bring about, all right, that digital ID, which is pretty much already happening, and then the MOTB written about in Revelation, the 13th chapter, which is a totally satanic system that's going to be presented as the best thing to all of the problems that are happening on the planet Earth, man. And you still have Israelites who don't see this, man. You still have Israelites that are saying the concept of a microchip and, all of these, it's silly. There's nothing to worry about. You shouldn't worry about it. God wouldn't care if you took one. All right? Well, the scriptures talks about the hour of temptation, man.
A pre-crime in play as well. So you look at the headlines, right? Afghan national accused of shooting two National Guardsmen in D.C. was in the U.S. illegally. How convenient they instantly know this. Of course, they play on people around the holidays. They know that They could tell you these days, oh man, people were just in DC. They're getting ready for Thanksgiving. The Macy's Day Parade's come on. It's an emotional time, right? They do this with, the holidays. They do this with locations where there's people like, parades, for example, or schools, because they know they can play on your heartstrings. I mean, it's incredible how the timing of this lines up. The motive of this doesn't exist, but everything falls into place perfectly for what the government wants. And it plays into this whole psyop of immigration and wanting to bring in digital ID. So I can't even pronounce this guy's name. I'm going to try. Ramahula Lakanwala. I mean, might as well just call him George Glass or John Doe, because that's what he is. He did his job. I'm sure he's shipped off somewhere else to carry out another government operation. Nobody will remember his face 2 weeks from now. And he'll probably be used in another government psychological operation. So from here, all we've gotten since this fake shooting occurred is Donald Trump vowing that we're going to have an immigration crackdown. And of course, telling us that we need more National Guard in Washington, D.C. And the only video clips that they show you on the news, because they want you to think it's real, because this is how psyops work, is people, rolling around on the ground, right? Like they couldn't fake this. Like they couldn't just say, hey, this is what you're going to do, okay? Next week, this is what we're carrying out. You're in the military. You do what we tell you to do, which is exactly how the military works. You don't have a say-so in this, okay? We're going to carry out this psyop. You're going to pretend you were shot. You're going to roll around. You're going to get a promotion after this. You're going to be, moving on up in the...
And in some of these, psyops, some people are actually, all right, hit, just to throw that out there.
World, from National Guard to something even higher in the future. Just play your part. Everybody in the Metro Police, we of course know that the Fraternal Order of Police is a branch of Freemasonry. This is what you're going to do. Everybody yell and scream at exactly 2:15. We're going to fire 2 blanks, roll around on the ground, block off the streets so that nobody can come and see if there's actually bullets or anything else. And we're going to stretch them out on a helicopter, bada bing, bada boom. And then we could just roll out the narratives about immigration, about tracking people and everything else that they need, right? So here's part of the clip. This is what you have to pay attention to, is these talking heads that pop up on the television right after these events occur, right? Because this is how they play on people emotionally. They immediately start talking about Joe Biden letting all these illegals into America, 90,000 illegals. Oh, you might remember this bill that Joe Biden passed. We're trying to help people, but now we have almost 100,000 people in America, a lot of whom shouldn't be here in the first place, that we just let in, right? Listen to this.
That this 29-year-old Afghan entered the country in 2021 through a Biden administration program called Operation Allies Welcome, which accepted around 90,000 Afghans. And people may remember it was a kind of a furious operation at the conclusion of America's involvement in Afghanistan, where we were trying to give sort of rescue some of the people that had helped the United States cause, or Afghans who were in danger. And there was a lot of vetting that took place very quickly. And this person was admitted into the country at that time.
So naturally, the response from conservatives is going to be what? They hear that, they're going to get angry. They're going to say things like, this is ridiculous. Joe Biden let all these illegals in. We need to get them out. Well, how are we going to get them out?
We got sleeper cells amongst us. Okay? Sleeper cells. What's a sleeper cell? Let's look that up. I believe there was an article somewhere too. Let's just go here. Sleeper cells. Type it in. Sleep. What is a sleeper cell? Okay, a secretive group of spies or terrorist. You see that word? Terrorist agents that remain inactive within a target population until an ordered act. Okay? So they're putting people on edge with the notion that, look, we have sleeper cells amongst us. They've allowed all of these people in. Now we're not safe. Okay, and now comes Palantir.
How are we going to find out where they are and who they are? Well, that's where technology comes into play, right? Because we know Palantir is mapping and tracking every single person in the United States of America. And this just allows them to do it. Because then people say, we need to track and find these people. So that means they have to track Americans who are here legally as well. That's fine, because we got to figure out who's here legally and who's not, right? So let's just give the government the full authority to track and monitor everybody's devices. And maybe we'll come up with a solution, which will be a digital ID in the future. That way we can know who's legal and who's not. And if everything's done digitally through a digital ID, it'll be much more convenient. Just like you heard earlier in the news story, right? They were talking about how they were using, is this an old fingerprinting technology? They were immediately able to use technology to find out who he was. We immediately were able to find out where he was, right? Thank goodness for technology. Let's pretend that this is all great so we can go after these illegal terrorists who are here illegally, when the reality of the matter is that all of this stuff they're trying to normalize is to go after you and to have the ability legally to track and monitor you. And there's no pushback, right? Nobody's pushing back. They're going, track them, find them, get them out. That's all the alt-right media is doing. Track them, find them, get them.
Yep, and Jake, all right, we look around, the black conservatives, All right. And you read the comments on these videos. Jake is all for it. Get him out. You know? Meanwhile, they're setting up the NWO and the anti-Messiah. And these are, you Jakes are supposed to be Christians. The black conservatives are supposed to be Bible-believing Americans that are just niggas that, you know, are fed up with the left. And we get it. The left, you know, it was a mess. But this is a mess as well. See, the two horns like a lamb was never meant for any of you Israelites to win. Yeah, a little bit more money flows around under, you know, the Republicans. All right, you know, the concept of Christianity is thrown out there. All right, but who ends up winning? The elites. Okay? And all of this stuff goes back to the ancient Roman Empire, man. Or the plebeians was for the common people. That's today's Democrats. The patricians was more of the aristocratic class. Okay, and that's the Republicans. Okay? At the end of the day, none of these all of these people are doing the bidding of Satan, man. Okay? The elites have ultimately bought both parties out to do their will to bring you to this very point where they're getting ready. Something big is getting ready to happen, man. Okay? This is small work according to what's coming. Wait till your lights go out. Wait till the grid attack happens.
Get him out, right? So give Trump the authority. That's fine if Trump is going to track all of us and look through our phones and do all this stuff, illegally, because we need to get him out because they're the real terrorists that are here, right? So we have conservatives that are now on board with that, don't even realize that this is about bringing in a digital ID eventually so that they can monitor who's here legally and who's not. But of course, it's not for that purpose. It's for the purpose of a digital enslavement grid, because that's what the digital ID is for. But they'll trick everybody into thinking the digital ID is just for immigration purposes, just like they're doing in the UK, where they're bringing it in and saying, we're getting a digital ID because we have to watch out for immigrants. They're coming here on ships, right? Oh, and by the way, if you don't get a digital ID, you can't have a job. Right? So that's what we're headed towards right now. And the other thing is that Donald Trump has ordered more National Guard members. And this is just how none of this stuff makes any sense, right? So because 2 National Guardsmen get shot on the streets, we need to order in 500 more National Guard members, right? And then people say, yeah, the streets are safe. Everything's great. Let's just keep bringing in more National Guard.
This happened just steps away from the White House. Will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful.
Right, son?
Peace and safety. Safe and beautiful. And we'll come back to this video. I wanted to bring this up. The Elder Barra from the Chicago camp, GMS austere man. Subscribe and be edified. Okay? The plot thickens. Remigration. Check this out.
I have biracial children. I have a son who is half Mexican, and I have 2 daughters who are half Black. But even if I did not have biracial children, this would be one of the most concerning things I've ever seen come out of the U.S. government. I came across the Department of Homeland Security post yesterday morning, November 28th, that said that the plan is remigration now. And I did a deep dive into remigration. And I read Project 2025, so I know that the goal of the country for Project 2025 authors is an all-white country, a country that looks like me but doesn't look like my children. And I did a deep dive into remigration, its history and what it means. And I cannot overstate how important it is for us all to become educated on this. I'm doing a series on remigration, and I will put it together in a playlist. I'm going to post them all today because we need to know all of this. But I don't ask you guys often, once in a while, to share this. But please share this for our neighbors of color, for our friends and our family members of color, and for 3 of my children, that if this policy goes through, could very well be stripped of their American citizenship. Share this, learn, and be on alert.
Because one of the concepts of Esau's NWO, or what he's crying about, is, the fact that Esau is not, populating. We don't have enough, Edomites in the earth, especially here in America. We're being outbred, we're becoming the minority. Okay, and they push this notion, Jake is 13%, all of those lies to, prop themselves up, but reality is kicking in. So now they have to move fast. All right, and the point of contention is Jacob. It's really all about Jacob and Esau. So they push all of these political narratives, all right, but the goal in place, all right, is to what? Let's get that in the book of Revelation, the 12th chapter, okay? Let's get Revelation, the 12th chapter, right? Something we always bring out, but we're here. Revelation 12 and 10, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power and the power of his anointed. Okay? For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. And he's being cast down through this word. He's being exposed. Okay? He's divided. Whether you want to go politically, okay, country, they're all divided. EU divided. NATO divided. Everybody hates Babylon. Everybody hates the tiny top. Okay, he's being cast down via the word. Cast down is an ancient a talking point of being brought to a lower state, either by what? Being exposed or falling, all right, to another nation. So our accuser, the accuser of the brethren, right? Let's read this in the NLT, see how it's worded. I don't think I've ever read this in NLT. And I heard a loud voice shouting across the heavens, it has come at last, salvation and power in the kingdom of our God and the authority of his anointed. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters has been thrown down to the earth, and the one who accuses them before our power day and night. Okay, Esau represents the end of this age. So Esau, all right, like he's known to do, he's getting ready to wage war against Jacob. Okay, and they've been keeping the black, all right, and brown face, so-called black, so-called browns. No such thing as a black person or a brown person, but they've been keeping the northern and southern kingdom in front of the camera, all right, during the shutdowns, okay, with the deportation, all right, the welfare, okay, the crime, okay, drugs. The focus has constantly been on Jake. All right, when you think of an illegal immigrant, they're not rolling hardcore. Not to say none of the heathen nations are getting rolled on, all right, for a deportation, but the focus is going to be, when you look at an immigrant, is going to be Israelites, all right, and then they'll throw that Muslim in there because they're able to paint the Muslim as a terrorist. See that? So this is a big accusation that's going on. Let's keep listening.
And go love your neighbor.
Ain't no love.
Do you know why this tweet from Homeland Security is so dangerous, calling for remigration? As a former history teacher, let me explain to you why you need to understand the context and use of that term specifically and what it could mean for the United States. Also, we told you this would happen, but let's get to the history and how it's even being used today in Europe. Let's start by going back in time to Germany in the 1930s. I know, not the best place to time travel to, but you need to understand what the Madagascar Plan was. This was a plan set up by the Yahtzee government that intended to solve the Jewish question, historical educational purposes only. Their plan was to deport them to the island of Madagascar, just to get rid of them entirely, because again, it was all about ethnic cleansing. They wanted pure Germans, and that population, well, they weren't really German. In fact, they didn't even see them as human, so the best solution was to get rid of them. Now are you starting to see why it's so dangerous that Homeland Security is using that term remigration? And it's also picked up steam recently in Europe. Let's go to Italy, where Giorgia Meloni, the current prime minister, is advocating for these policies and even put them into place. And just to be clear, this is taking off throughout Europe, not just Italy. It has been propagated by far-right groups across the continent over the past several years. But Italy is where it's actually starting to take off, as it were, because they do not have birthright citizenship. Being born in Italy does not guarantee you the right to live there or become a citizen. Unlike the United States, where we have the 14th Amendment and the protection of birthright citizenship. And by the way, the current administration is challenging that. They want to strip people of their citizenship and get rid of birthright citizenship to make it like Italy. So even if you...
So as you see, Trump administration is embracing remigration, echoes Europe's far right. Okay? Remigration is a European far right concept of ethnic cleansing, right? The same thing that the tiny top is doing with the Palestinians. That's ethnic cleansing. That's coming here. And y'all playing games because y'all don't think it's ever going to happen. See, you niggas ate brunch for lunch and had free lunch in elementary school, and you know, a lot of you found out you were Israelites, and you still taste the syrup. You know, you still taste the pancakes from McDonald's. You know, that was enough for you, man. You just found out you're an Israelite. You stopped eating pork. Boom. You know, you really love it here. You really don't think that this man is getting ready to roll on you. When we bring up Jacob's trouble, who do we get hell from? Israelites. Israelites leave these comments, man, with the 1619 was Jacob's trouble. We already went through Jacob's trouble. All right. All right. What can be worse than them sicking dogs on us? A robot dog, nigga? How about a robot dog? Because that's what's coming. They're going to use, you just watch, man. You know, I looked it up, and you look it up on your own. I don't feel like reading through this, but basically, pretty much they say it here. All right? Ethnic cleansing via a mass deportation of non-white minority population, especially immigrants. Now Trump is talking about that. We told you many great miseries are coming, man.
You have legal status here, you're living in a country legally, like Italy, and you have a child there, that child is not guaranteed citizenship or even legal status. And in Italy, people are concerned that their children, even though they are there completely legally, could be deported to a country that they have never seen or known. And that's what they want to try and do here in the United States, because again, you've probably heard of something else called the Great Replacement Theory, propagated by far-right podcasters, news figureheads. I use that term loosely.
Let's look up what the Great Replacement Theory is. What is the Great Replacement Theory? Is a debunked white nationalist, and that's who's ruling right now, doing the bidding of the small hat. All right, that's what they are, Christian national. All right, and what's the legacy of Christianity and white Christian nationalists? Rape, robbery, and murdering, but then justifying it by creating sciences to say that the people that they subdued, raped, robbed, murdered, poisoned, all right, were a threat to the earth. Primitive, right? It's a white nationalist conspiracy theory that falsely claims Western populations are being intentionally, systematically replaced by non-white immigrants, often from Muslim majority countries, right? Proponents of the theory believe this is part of a secret plot orchestrated by global elites, often blamed on these people, to dilute the political power and culture of white people in Western countries. Okay? And this is being echoed now. Policies are being passed centered around this. This is what people don't understand.
This has been going on for decades, and now it's in motion. It was written down in Project 2025. You didn't listen, and here we are today. And now the department...
Because let's get Obadiah. Verse 2. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. The Western Edomite, the small hat, greatly despised, man. But they've become small among the heathen. They're far outnumbered, but they have all of the control. How did they get all of that control? The Lord gave it to them, man. There was a blessing given unto them via Isaac, man. They would have the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. But the scriptures say, woe to now, ye rich men. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee, thou that dwelleth in the cleft of the rock, whose habitation is high. Because really, this is a caveman who was able to shave the hair off his back, put a suit on, and convince you through pseudoscience that he was the most elegant human being on the planet Earth. He has a higher IQ than everybody. Intelligence quotient. Okay? Complete nonsense, man. But when you look at the world he rules and governs, it does not mimic that of someone who is smart and wise. He's a demon. See? So he's been made small among the heathen. Let's get that word small. Katan. Small, insignificant, unimportant, young, unimportant, least. Okay? So he's always prided himself through his pseudoscience as being the majority and, putting you as the minority and all these lies. Now it's biting him in the ass, so he got to act on it. So now remigration is on Trump's tongue. You think they're setting up Palantir and AI to give you a ticket from what? No, they're getting ready to roll on people, man. But all right, if you thought 2025 was something, you just wait for 2026, man. May the Lord be with us, man.
Department of Homeland Security is blatantly dog whistling white supremacist groups, far right groups, by using the term remigration, which is just a fancy way of saying YT supremacy and ethnic cleansing.
Well, the official Homeland Security account is once again advocating for remigration, a term that has a very dark history in far-right politics. They said the stakes have never been higher and the goal has never been more clear. Remigration now. Then down here they post 2 times saying help arrest them, help deport them, please join ICE. For anybody who's unfamiliar with this term, here's what it means. It's a European far-right concept of ethnic cleansing via the mass deportation of non-white minority populations, especially immigrants and sometimes including those born in Europe and holding European citizenship, to their place of racial ancestry. This isn't a neutral word. It is a dog whistle with a very specific and dangerous meaning. They're essentially saying they want to go after every single person who is not white in this country, even if you came here the legal way. That includes people who were born here but may have parents or even grandparents that weren't born here. They're going after them too, anybody who's not deemed white enough. And even worse, they're posting links encouraging the general public to help arrest and deport innocent people. This is not how American law enforcement or immigration enforcement is supposed to work at all. U.S. policy should be grounded in the law and the Constitution, not imported.
Situation. On Friday, DHS posted, quote, remigration now. As you probably know, this term has been used in different situations, but including by the far right in Europe to call for the mass deportation of non-white immigrants. How specifically does the Trump administration define remigration?
Well, President Trump has been working towards cleaning up the mess that Joe Biden left us ever since he came into the White House.
How do you define that word, Secretary Noem? How do you define that word?
15.
Because you see, they constantly, the left, the right, they bringing that game is old, man. So now it's like, well, what's going on? What's up? Although we know this is the propaganda machine, but she's asking her, how do you define? Because we just went into a little bit of the history of what it's all about, remigration. Well, how do you define it? What do you mean?
Well, first of all, we have criminal illegal aliens we've been targeting since day one. We have removed millions of people from this country already just in the few short months that President Trump has been president by making sure we're going after criminal illegal aliens that are murderers, rapists, and criminals. And
this, you would think that the so-called white man didn't do no crime. Listening to these people, man. All right, but it's target. Jake is the target. All right, and they always throw Ishmael up in there because Ishmael has always been, when I say Ishmael, the Arab, they've always been associated with terror.
Getting them out of our country, bringing them to justice, and then encouraging people to go home. If you're here illegally and breaking our laws, you can leave now, and you may get the opportunity to come back someday. But if you wait until we detain you, and we will deport you, and you'll never get the chance to come back to America and visit us or become a citizen. We're going to continue to do that, go after those criminals, go after those individuals that came in under programs that were broken on the Biden administration and people who were in place and leadership in that crazy
problem, reaction, solution. So you can check this video out.
It has all this year tried to position immigrants as the enemy, and we have to defend ourselves against the vile immigrants that are polluting the bloodstream of America. But yesterday, DHS, our Department of Homeland Security, tweeted, "The fight for Western civilization is just getting started. Join the fight." This is rhetoric from the Proud Boys. Western civilization meaning white society under threat from Muslims and Hispanics and Africans. And
boom, there we go. There we go. And when he say Africans, he's talking about the Israelites, man. We ain't no goddamn Africans, man.
This is the rhetoric in white supremacist circles about defending Western civilization. But if that wasn't enough, then they post, the stakes have never been higher and the goal has never been more clear.
It really is the other children of Abraham. Esau, he mad. He didn't get the blessing. Okay, Ishmael's a child of Abraham too. The Arabs, they didn't get the blessing, but they got a blessing. Esau got a blessing. See, Esau's just mad that his eternal life as God on earth ain't his blessing. His blessing is just about up. So now he's trying to throw a wrench in the plan of our blessing, man.
Remigration now. Remigration is a popular concept in neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups about rounding up non-white immigrants and sending them back to their ethnic country of origin. Remigration. Let's kick these people out. This isn't a Nazi group posting this.
And where he go send Jake back to? The spirit world. That's where he plan on taking your ass back to. Jeremiah 30:7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. All right. The scriptures say in 2 Esdras 15. All right. Or 16. Right? That they're going to be like madmen sparing none. Verse 71. As a matter of fact. Woo. And AI is going to be a big part of this. As a matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll go to another video and then we'll go back to that. Arrows of Indignation 144. All right, the water to this brother, for the time, it goes into putting these clips together. Subscribe. Esau created his own problems, known as problem reaction solution, so his agenda can be fulfilled.
The war that the U.S. is threatening on Venezuela is the exact fucking reason why we have immigration flooding into the U.S. from Central and South America. It's basically...
You hear them? These are things, I myself, of course, the apostles, bishops, and elders, we've been telling you these type of things the whole time, man. The reason for immigration, Esau's hand is in the reason people are trying to come over here in the first place. But he's breaking it down, Salakia.
From Central and South America. It's basically Operation Condor from Central and South America. And we have immigration flooding into the U.S. from Central and South America. It's basically Operation Condor 2.0 or 3.0. I don't know what the fuck we're at this point again. But it's never been more blatant and more fucking obvious. What's infuriating, too, is that when Hugo Chavez was running Venezuela, right? Massively popular, landslide elections. Every time there was a running joke that would say, if there was ever a conflict where the decision couldn't be made by the government, by Chavez's government, they would just throw an election. Like, it would just, everything was up for vote, everything was up for elections. Massively revolutionary at the time, right? But what you had happen is you had a fuck ton of people from Colombia who was ran by a right-wing U.S.-backed government at the time. A bunch of poor people from there that migrated into Venezuela. A fuck ton of them. Millions of people migrated into Venezuela to take advantage of the resources, the programs, and all the social revolution that was going on for the benefit of poor people. Now, fast forward a few years, Chavez dies, Maduro wins by elections and continues to win by elections. He continues to implement those programs. But then what you see happen is that the U.S. fucking crushes and tries to put more sanctions and sanctions and sanctions on Maduro. And then you see the opposite happening. Now that people are a little more necessity and there's a little more scarcity, now people started migrating out of Venezuela.
As the scriptures say, throughout the earth, I believe it's Psalms, maybe Psalms 58. Boom. Psalms 58:1. Yea, in heart ye work wickedness, ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. See that? All throughout the earth. All right, but then they use the Western propaganda machine, the news, to program your mind into thinking these people are the problem. This is the problem. We got to fix it. They're doing the same thing, all right, with the migrants. Not to say that some of them ain't over here doing wickedness, of course. Crime is in the scriptures say Esau, Edom's vibration, all right, when you read Revelation, the 6th chapter, he took peace from the earth. So everybody's mindset is dead set on self-destruct, man. Everybody. So yeah, there's crime all over this place. Yeah, there's, drugs all over the place. But whose hand created these problems? This is what, all right, people don't want to address. But people are starting to address it, man. Let's go back to what he was saying.
So now fast forward a few years, Chavez dies, Maduro wins by elections and continues to win by elections. He continues to implement those programs. But then what you see happen is that the U.S. fucking crushes and tries to put more sanctions and sanctions and sanctions on Maduro. And then you see the opposite happening. Now that people are a little more necessity and there's a little more scarcity, now people started migrating out of Venezuela. And what did they do? They weren't migrating to Colombia at the time because Colombia was still ran by some right-wing fascist motherfuckers up until Petro recently. So they started migrating to all the surrounding countries. Mexico had a huge influx of Venezuelan migrants. Venezuelan migrants were originally trying to get to the U.S., which, by the way, the entire reason, we've said it so many times before, that migrants come into the U.S. from Central and South America is we are here because you were there.
Right.
We are a direct result of being, none of us want to leave our fucking homelands. We leave from the necessity. We leave from the lack of...
And I just did a video recently on this, what he's going into. You need to know where it is, just ask or go to my page and type in immigration.
Agriculture that got destroyed by the U.S., by the economy that got destroyed by the U.S., by the militarization that got sponsored and backed by the U.S. Nobody backs and sponsors more fucking dictators across the globe and across history than the U.S. Nobody. It's not even fucking close. I made whole videos about that, right? So not only do you have that happening here, but bare minimum, we owe every migrant from Central and South America full citizenship. We're causing them to leave their homelands. So it's laughable that anybody wants to complain about U.S. immigration because nobody loves to create more immigrants than the United States. Nobody, hands down. And not only is it absurd to accuse Venezuela of being drug traffickers, which is hilarious, but nobody traffics more drugs than the U.S. either. None of this makes any sense across the board at all. So whether we tolerate it or not is a different question. But the point is, here on this side of the camera, we're not tolerating that shit. We're not standing for this. All the work that we do with our migrant rights struggles and everything else is resource distribution, is family support teams, is patrolling and helping neighborhoods form self-defense committees so that we can push back against not only the fascist government, but the fascists that live in our hometowns as well. So,
here's another video he put up. Economic hitman.
Was to create the world's first truly global empire. And it's the first empire that's been created primarily without the military. It's been created by economic hitmen, by people like what I once was.
Economic hitman, they go to these different countries, they overthrow them, okay? They're either the leader, the ruler that was there, who had things in order. Like Libya is an example of this, man. Gaddafi. All right, they use the Western media to paint this man as the biggest problem, right? Go over there, they uproot it, okay? But what was he really trying to do? He was trying to what? Put a gold standard, all right, on it. He was trying to basically get a gold standard in under his dollar, right? Which that's not good for the West. That's not good for the dominance of the dollar, right? I mean, people over there in Libya had free education, free health care. If they started a family, they get a stipend. I mean, the energy bills were super low. I mean, goodness gracious. But the America propaganda machine made it to seem as Libya was the worst thing going. Gaddafi was the worst thing going. Look at it now that he's left. So they do this throughout the four corners of the earth, man. As a matter of fact, let's get the book of Habakkuk, the first chapter. It's speaking of the Chaldeans, but this is what the modern day, the daughter of the Chaldeans, does as well. Habakkuk 1:10, and they shall scoff at kings, and princes shall be a scorn unto them, and they shall deride every stronghold, for they shall heap up dust, resources, and take it. So they deride strongholds. There's countries that are rich in resources, man, that will be well off if they were able to what? Govern themselves and do what? What does America do? They want the resources, so they create propaganda in the news. They send economic hitmen over there to disrupt things, all right? And then when it all falls, or they'll start a war, all right? When it all falls, they'll set up a puppet government or leader, and that leader is doing their will. All right, the leader is doing their will. All right, now the people there suffer. Okay, and this is just a very small, explanation of what they do. So now people are looking for somewhere else to go because they're being oppressed. They can't find jobs. All of the corporations there are benefiting Esau. Okay, the resources that they're rich in, they can't win off of it. So what do? They say, well, we're going to migrate to a country where we can have a job. What is that associated with? Babylon, America, or British, the UK, so to speak. Okay? And you'll have a government over here who will let them in. Yes, they're seeking asylum. Let them in. All right? And then it becomes a problem Then you become mad that they're here. This is the cycle of Esau Edom, man. And the way I'm explaining it is just very small, all right, to the reality of how it goes down. He's explaining it a little bit, but this is what they do. They deride strongholds. Listen to what he's saying.
We have managed to create the world's first truly global empire. And it's the first empire that's been created primarily without the military. It's been created by economic hitmen, by people like what I once was. And we work many different ways, the economic hitmen, but perhaps the most common is that we will identify a third world country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sisters. But the money never goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our big corporations to build infrastructure projects, power plants, highways, industrial parks, things that benefit a few very rich people in that country, as well as our own corporations, but don't help the majority of the people who are too poor to buy electricity, don't have the skills to get jobs in industrial parks, don't own cars to drive on the highways. And yet those very people, the whole country is left holding a huge debt. So they can't pay for education and social services and health care for its people. In fact, the debt is so huge by intent that at some point we economic hitmen go back and we say, listen, you owe us a lot of money. You can't repay your debt, so sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies without regard to the environment. Vote with us on the next critical United Nations vote. Send troops in support of ours to some place in the world like Iraq. And in that way, we created this empire. On the few times when we economic hitmen fail, as I talk about in the book says, I failed in Ecuador with Jaime Roldos and in Panama with Omar Torrijos. Then the jackals go in. And these are men, maybe a few women, who overthrow governments or assassinate their leaders. So if I'm unable to bring them around, if the economic hitman is unable to bring them around through legal means, what we do is we use legal means through the World Bank, but it's basically corrupting the leaders of these countries. If we're unable to corrupt them, then the jackals go in and take care of them. So when I failed with Jaime Roldos in Ecuador and Omar Torrijos in Panama, the jackals assassinated them. And if the jackals fail, which is what happened in Iraq, both the economic hitmen and the jackals failed with Saddam Hussein, then, and only then, does the military go in. So this is the first empire in the history of the world that's been created primarily without the military. The military only is the last resort.
Kind of the White House is.
So, again, just going into some things that Esau got going on. All right. Let's see here. AI is going to be the answer. Brute force via the sword, and AI is getting ready to be the answer to this. The fact that you got all these migrants over here, and now some of them are just shooting people up. We don't know who's who. We don't know what. We need to protect the Edomite race. We need to do this. We need to do that. Spies in the skies. U.S. councils using drones to snoop on residents, man. Look for this to be the norm. All right. It says the UK. All right, but ultimately it's coming over here as well, man. Okay. Tony Blair praises amazing benefits of merging digital ID with facial recognition in AI. Okay. This is where it's all moving to. They're using all of these problems. All right. And here's the solution. Roblox becomes the first major platform to require facial age check, creating massive database of children's biometric data. Okay. And we can get more into these things. All right, but we'll get into that, the next one. I want to get a few more videos real quick. I think this is a good one here. I wanted to, this particular, the godfather of AI warns of a complete breakdown of society. During the hour-long public conversation with Senator Bernie Sanders at Georgetown University last week, he laid out all the alarming ways that he forecast AI will completely upend society for the worse, seemingly leaving little room for human contrivances like optimism. One of the reasons why rapid deployment will be completely unlike technological past, yada, yada, yada. The people who lose their jobs won't have jobs to go to, Hinton said, as quoted by Business Insider. If AI gets as smart as people or smarter, any job they might can do can be done by AI. And this is where this guy Musk keeps talking about, you know, we won't need jobs. Let's listen to a little bit of this fucking demon here, man. Excuse my Swahili, man.
If you say, like, in the long term, where will things end up? Long term, I don't know what long term is.
See that hand sign you doing? It's the same hand sign Deacon Hakab been doing.
Maybe it's 10, 20 years, something like that. For me, that's long term. My prediction is that work will be optional.
Optional.
Optional. So
We'll take that.
yeah, I mean, it'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. If you want to work, you know, in the same way, like you can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables in your backyard, but some people still do it because they like growing vegetables. That will be what work is like, optional. And between now and then, there's actually a lot of work to get to that point. I always recommend people read Ian Banks' culture books to get a sense for what a probable positive AI future is like. And interestingly, in those books, money is no longer, doesn't exist. It's kind of interesting. And my guess is, if you go out long enough, assuming there's a continued improvement in AI and robotics, which seems likely, the money will stop being relevant at some point in the future. There will still be constraints on power, like electricity and mass. The fundamental physics elements will still be constraints. But I think at some point, currency becomes irrelevant.
So the implementation of all of this AI is going to lead to the breakdown of society, and it's going to make life a living hell for the people. It's going to be used to wage war on you, okay, govern you, surveil you. It's going to be used to say who's with us and who's not. Again, it's going to be presented as peace and safety, but it's going to make life a living hell, man. Okay, let's go to this one.
Look, guys, AI already has this capability. It can create voices, faces, speeches, indistinguishable from real humans. Look at the videos out there right now that these platforms are releasing. It's incredible. The digital identification, eventually, Revelation 13 says all, small, great, rich, poor, free, and slave will be marked. No one will be able to buy or sell without the mark, something put in the right hand or put in the forehead. Buying, selling, work credentials, transportation access, medical care, and banking will all be integrated into one digital identification system. Every payment, every movement will require AI confirmation. If digital identity becomes required for economic participation, dissenters would be shut out instantly. Then when you've got this police state that's forming, that has AI-powered drones and robots, predictive policing, and all this stuff. You know what? This is what's going to happen. You're going to have automated enforcement of curfews or non-compliance. You're going to have AI forecasting which individuals may resist compliance. Anyone refusing digital identification, loyalty oaths to whatever government that's in place, whatever leadership, whatever political party, state-mandated ideology, all of this could be flagged for enforcement. This will completely remove the human factor in this, and AI becomes the perfect obedient enforcer, even into worship. You could see this integrated into worship. AI surveillance would monitor religious speech, on platforms like social media. Algorithms will be set to detect dangerous or unsanctioned religious content. Again, China's already doing this, ladies and gentlemen. Cameras will be everywhere. They'll verify whether a citizen attends state ceremonies or digital gatherings, whether they worship the beast or whether they don't. And when individuals lose digital privileges, if you fail to participate, then this is what's going to happen. You're going to you'll be isolated from society. You'll be left out. Revelation 13 emphasizes a worldwide coordination AI systems could easily, all this will play into this, could easily cause a centralized global governance opportunity for their tools. We're talking about shared biometric databases, universal payment systems, digital currencies, and unified speech rules will all be placed into power. Laws that will be passed, no doubt, and will be enforced algorithmically across all nations simultaneously, and this will create a kind of digital global kingdom.
Tower of Babel.
Not possible in centuries prior to this. This is why when John looked out and he saw a future where
this dude is definitely listening to the prophets.
Something's put in the right hand and in the forehead that you will not be able to buy, sell, or trade. This has remained an enigma for centuries, but now in this generation, our generation, it's no longer something that's perplexing. We can see it happening. So the bottom line is, folks, don't get caught up in the political theatrics of what's going on right now, because they're keeping people distracted from the real things that are happening that's biblical.
And this is what Israelites are doing as well. Okay, this system is being implemented, man. Okay, he's using all kind of deception and, narratives, but this is where it's going, man. Revelation 13 and 16, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And the thing is this, before they do that, they're going to make you to bow to their image, which we see technocracy being heightened, which AI will be used to make you bow to their new image. All right, the revival of Rome has now been heightened, all right, and accelerated through this AI technology, man.